What's better than a Dubey speech? How about a Dubey response to an ethics complaint? In this episode, you will find out how Dubey fumbled the ball for XUSOM, how Mrs. Neelam will bear the shame, and how did XUSOM students get screwed over in all of this? Quick background. When I worked at XUSOM, Mrs. Neelam asked me to help her analyze OSCE data. And then a few months after I left, she took the stats that I wrote up and paid a journal to publish this article listing her as the lead statistician. She also included her husband, Dr. Dubey, even though I don't remember Dubey contributing on this at all. And you'll notice they did not include me in any way. In 21, I filed an ethics complaint with the journal alleging 3 separate ethics violations. And after a couple of long years, we finally have a verdict for 2 of those 3 complaints. Let's start with complaint number 1, violation of authorship ethics. From the outset, I was ready to present evidence of what I wrote. But the journal was like, that's not how we do it. Apparently, they have a policy where they don't get involved in catfights between coworkers. Instead, they forward authorship disputes to the school, and the school conducts an unbiased investigation to tell the journal who wrote what. Now, that policy works great if it's a legitimate school with a research integrity office. But this is XUSOM, and XUSOM's research integrity officer is our favorite gynecologist slash pharmacologist and man full of integrity, Dr. Dubey. And Dr. Dubey conducted his unbiased investigation, and he concluded that I am nothing but a disgruntled former employee, and I do not merit authorship. Now, Dubey came very close to getting away with this lie, except he got tripped up by his other lie. You see, when Dubey claimed to be an author, that disqualifies him from being the unbiased investigator into an authorship dispute. And thankfully, the journal recognized Dubey's conflict of interest. And that creates a dilemma for the journal. Their policy is the school decides, but this school is shady AF. So we have a resolution, and I am happy with it. They are not going to give me authorship, which is fine because I don't want my name in this dumpster fire. Instead, what we got is called an expression of concern. This is a statement, it's attached to Mrs. Neelam's article, and it alerts anyone in the world who reads her article that there's enough evidence that authorship has been called into question. And some things are just not right with this article. So what I love the most is that this badge of shame on the article could have been easily prevented if Dubey just told the truth. If he said, you know what, Michelle contributed, they would have slopped my name on there somewhere and case closed. And no one in the world would have noticed the dirty deed they tried to pull. It kind of reminds me of one of Dubey's famous books, The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Mrs. Neelam wearing that badge of shame. This time the A does not stand for adultery. It stands for authorship. And she wears it well, doesn't she? The expression of concern is not the only shame that XUSOM has to face. My second complaint was fake data. That's what I call it. XUSOM, however, calls it, oops, we made a little typo. I don't know what happened, but they decided to add some stats after I left, and whoever added them had no idea what they were doing. So the write-up was completely wrong. There are some fake numbers in there. And so the journal has posted this core addendum on Mrs. Neelam's article, again, alerting the world to something's just not right with this article. They forced XUSOM to correct the statistical mistake. And XUSOM corrected it with the wrong formula because no one who knows anything about stats would express the formula that way. XUSOM, maybe the third try will be the charm. Now, my third ethics complaint was about informed consent. When XUSOM published their article, they claimed that they obtained informed consent from the XUSOM students to use their OSCE grades in a publication for the world to see. I don't believe informed consent was obtained. And for 2 years, XUSOM has not been able to show any evidence of informed consent. So this is unresolved, which makes no sense to me because this is the most egregious of the ethics complaints, and it's also the easiest to prove or disprove. And yet the journal has taken no action for years, leading me to wonder, does anyone care about XUSOM students? Like, they're being exploited in research with less rights than a lab rat. And another thing that XUSOM students should wonder is, why did Mrs. Neelam receive, spelled wrong, cost of publishing from XUSOM? Don't you think XUSOM can invest their money in things that support students rather than paying for Mrs. Neelam to have a vanity publication that turned into a publication of shame? So I gotta wonder, when I was at XUSOM, our employment contracts said if we embarrassed the school, we were fired. Do Dubey and Neelam also have that clause in their contract?